in the House.
Mr. Tonko, thank you very much, and you're quite correct that we need to move in that direction. One of the American economy is about 60–70% based upon consumer purchases of homes and cars and all those other goods. Part of that reason that we're not seeing the kind of economic growth that would normally occur in a recovery is that the 99% don't have money. They lost a great deal of their wealth. Trillions of dollars of their wealth was wiped out in the financial collapse, their pensions, their homes, the equity in their home. And as the economy has recovered, the creation of the growth, the wealth, didn't go to them, so they're not being able to really increase their purchasing power, which has dampened the economy. Now, there are things that we can do, and you were beginning that process, and let's take our way through them. I'm just going to put this back up because this is not just a picture of the distribution of wealth in the economy, that is the economic growth. It's also a picture of why the economy hasn't really returned. There are other factors to be sure, but clearly the absence of purchasing power, that is new wealth in the hands of the 99%, the absence of that has retarded the economic recovery. This is something we've talked about here many, many times, and Mr. Tonko brought this up, many of these issues. We call it the Make It in America agenda. This follows along on President Obama's jobs program. Many of these elements are the same as he proposed. They're displayed a little differently here. Tax policy, critically important. We need to redo our tax policy. Mr. Tonko talked about the tax policy and the effect that we've seen over these many years. But what I'd like to do today is really focus on these other issues, the issue of infrastructure, research, education, labor, and energy. On the labor side, we've talked about that in great detail here. The working men and women, laboring as they are they getting a fair share of the economic growth? The answer is categorically no. Are there policies that can change that? Yes. One of them has been on discussion here in Congress, which is the minimum wage issue. Now, California has a minimum wage law that is before the governor. He's expected to sign it, and that will push the minimum wage up and to about, I think, about $10 an hour, and that will cause the entire wage structure in California to move upward, shifting wealth to the working men and women in California. Whether the nation will follow that, the President has called for an increase in the minimum wage, and that will certainly be helpful in shifting to the working population of this nation a larger share, or at least a fair share, of the growth of the economy. Let's talk about infrastructure for a while. I know this is an issue you were working on, Mr. Tonko, following the floods a year ago. We see those same floods, different floods, but devastating floods occurring in Colorado. You were one of the strong advocates for rebuilding our infrastructure. Why don't you pick that issue up and let's see if we can talk about how we might be able to accomplish that.
There again, you know, it's policy or lack thereof that's impacting us heavily. Witnessing some of the unusual 100-year storms, 500-year storms as they're designated, in a rapid succession over the last several years, dating back to the late 80s, but then in rapid succession 2006, 2011, 2012, in upstate New York, in an area that I represent, or just south of me in the area that borders my district, tells me even the nomenclature is ludicrous. It's not a 100 or 500-year storm. It's happening ever so frequently. And it's because we don't embrace some of the science out there that, through data compilation, is begging our attention. If we're going to continue to ignore those impacts of Mother Nature, if we're going to ignore the global warming and impacts of Mother Nature on our infrastructure, we're going to have more and more bills for cleanup. And is it just replacement, or are we talking about reevaluating situations? For instance, some of the electric utility efforts that stayed most abundantly strong were distributed energy projects along the coast in metro New York with Superstorm Sandy. I saw infrastructure, bridges, displaced by the powerful force of water, in some places equated to the CFS, the cubic feet per second flow of Niagara Falls. And so do you just, if data are telling you that these storms are more and more frequent, that you're going to get this marked extra volume of water, precipitation, do you just replace, or do you take a longer span, a higher, a greater height to that bridge design? These are things that need to be discussed. And again, it's going to be money coming out of the pocket that is required because we're not dealing with the fundamental science that is telling us we should anticipate more and more of these storms. The infrastructure along these efforts, the coastal erosion, is requiring all sorts of improvement to ports. This affects our economy. This requires a master plan. This requires a Make It in America agenda that puts into play investments into our infrastructure to replace what has been damaged with a sound investment, reinvestment here that improves upon a situation rather than just replaces when we know that it will probably not withstand the forces of Mother Nature into the future. So infrastructure is critical, and the millions that we can put to work, Representative Garamendi, with that kind of legislation. The President has called for improvements in our infrastructure that will put millions to work. You know, the best way to resolve a deficit in this country is to have people go to work. And the dignity that comes with that investment in work opportunities is good for working class families across this country. So
Mr. Tonko,
we know what to do. Let's get on with the business.
Well, you and I were talking earlier before we came up here about this. You may want to take up this issue of
sure.
what this is an issue of what an infrastructure investment means to growing the economy.
Well, and it speaks also to the order of investment that rather than the order of spending that some might label it,